The Italian Renaissance, spanning the 14th to 16th century, an extreme influencer of political and social thought into the early 17th century, was an era of innovation, creativity, and redefined boundaries. The Renaissance was a period crucial for the development of modern rights and responsibilities. The philosophies of humanism, rulers' responsibilities, and many other Renaissance ideas persisted and evolved, drastically affecting the development of modern concepts such as natural rights, civic duties, and democracy. A time of flourishing philosophy, art, and information, it shaped the technological world of the time and permanently changed the worldview on empirical science. The Renaissance is one of the most important movements that directly influence the rights and responsibilities of present-day society. There were many events prior to the Italian Renaissance that had a monumental impact on the course of its development. During the late Middle Ages, the Black Death was one of the most impactful events, killing 30 to 50% of the population in Europe. The Black Death caused massive labour shortages, fear, and incredible demographic shifts in Italy, along with the rest of Afro-Eurasia. The Black Death did not directly start the Renaissance, but its impacts greatly influenced the Renaissance inception in Italy. In the feudal system, a peasant or a worker was bound to a piece of land by a vassal or a king. A vassal would receive a piece of land in return for serving their king, especially during times of war. On the other hand, the serfs and peasants were the members of the lowest class in feudal society, which also happened to be the largest. These serfs and peasants rarely left their village or town, as they were bound to the land. A more direct cause of the Renaissance comes during the collapse of the ancient Roman Empire, as many city-states rose to power within Italy whilst Rome collapsed, which led to many political conflicts between city-states. The constant conflicts fragmented Italy in regards to its ideas and politics, yet this created the conditions necessary to progress in science, art, and culture, as sponsorship and individualism became more celebrated. Philosophical thought led to synthesis of ideas in the forms of rationalism, ethics, and metaphysics. Rationalists and philosophers shifted away from faith-based concepts in favour of a more empirical viewpoint on the world, and political thinkers adopted many of these Greek and ancient Roman systems, which highly impacted the trajectory of the Renaissance. All in all, out of many factors that led to the development of thought and reasoning in the Renaissance, the Greek and ancient Roman ideologies helped bring about this Reformation. There was a melting pot of ideas and cultures that brought about this rebirth. Humanism was one of the main factors leading to increasing rights in the Renaissance, and was a major factor in how human thought developed in this time period. Humanism featured a massive philosophical shift that increased focus on individual and secular, not theological thought. This led to massive changes in human rights, as people became more focused on themselves rather than religion, leading to massive shifts in the concepts of human rights. Literature and philosophy were also greatly influenced in this time period, with the development of vernacular language and literature, which explored the new themes. We can see this through Renaissance authors such as Dante, Petrarch, and Boccaccio, who made significant contributions to the development of vernacular literature and its development into what is now today. This literature explored many themes that had not been explored in depth in the past, such as love and beauty, but also the nature of humanity. Italy was divided into many different warring city-states at the time, so political thought and political ideals started to come to fruition. However, the warring factions also hindered economic progress. One author contributing to this development was Machiavelli. Machiavelli's work emphasized pragmatic and brutal political practices that still affects the world today. In the feudal system, the church influenced most aspects of life in Europe, but in the Renaissance, developing ideals and philosophy such as humanism negatively affected the influence of the church and set up the world for the later Reformation. The Renaissance increased trade and wealth in Italy, especially with the rise of banking families such as the Medici, increasing patronage for their citizens as well. During the Renaissance, a renewed interest in scientific and empirical thought, with developments such as the shift towards experimentation, with famous scientists like Galileo and Leonardo da Vinci making significant contributions. One of the most well-known facts of the Renaissance was its development in art. This came through the formation of styles such as perspective, chiaroscuro, and sfumato, much of which came about under famous artists such as Michelangelo, Raphael, and Botticelli. The Italian Renaissance greatly changed how European societies functioned, with a strong emphasis on education and the pursuit of knowledge, with wealthy families such as the Medicis having a crucial role in sponsoring the development of art and literature, leading to creative freedom which fueled intellectual advancements. Out of all the revolutionary ideas that the Renaissance birthed, humanism was one of the most important of these ideals. It reignited an emphasis on human potential and worth. As the University of Idaho states, Renaissance man learned to see humanity, the human form, intellect and experience, as an object of brilliance and beauty, rather than of sin. The shift in perspective and emphasis on individualism and secularism within Italy challenged the global intellectual atmosphere, paving the way for the Enlightenment and scientific revolution, as well as defining what it meant to be human. The invention of the printing press was also a very influential turning point in history, as it changed the diffusion of knowledge greatly, allowing new ideas to spread rapidly across Europe, thus fueling the Renaissance. This democratization of knowledge revolutionized the right of individuals to access information, ultimately contributing to the future revolutions that happened in the 18th and 19th centuries. There was a rise of prosperous middle class fueled by trade and commerce, provided economic and social mobility, empowering individuals to pursue their own interests and aspirations, as well as gaining a political voice, building the foundation for the emerging concepts of democracy later on. As evidence, these paintings show us the rise and the dominance of the middle class. During an interview with historian Christopher Burnell, he mentions that the ancient Roman and Greek individuals seeped into all aspects of life during the Renaissance. This inspires the rest of Europe to follow suit, driving the Enlightenment. This emphasis on humanism and individual rights during the Italian Renaissance, inspired by Greek and ancient Roman philosophy, directly gave rise to new ideas about justice and equality for everyone, setting up the stage for future social and political movements, such as the Scientific Revolution and the Enlightenment. The Italian Renaissance, a period of great cultural and intellectual growth for many, inspired many ideals we hold dear today. The emphasis on the individual led to the rise of concepts of human potential and human achievement overall, which challenged the characteristic hierarchy of feudalism and divine rights of kings during the medieval era. Within this period, there was a growing emphasis on the pursuit of knowledge, with a focus on development of personal skills such as critical thinking. This was a time when public education was no longer shunned, but promoted. Many famous thinkers such as Niccolò Machiavelli, Erasmus, and Baldassare Castiglione contributed greatly to these intellectual and cultural developments within their respective city-states, which then, in turn, generated the groundwork and primary concepts for the Scientific Revolution, the Enlightenment, and ultimately, the Industrial Revolutions. This shift was accompanied by a disparate outlook on Christianity, as many groups and individuals began to question religious doctrines, especially those of the Catholic Church and the information it provided. Instead, they sought knowledge and understanding through reason, observation, and collaboration. Despite this, religious ideals were still deeply ingrained in Italian societies. Gradually, these new social ideas transferred into economic and political areas as well. The political landscape of the Italian Revolution was also transformed, with Machiavelli's ideas of pragmatism and the pursuit of power, and the notion that the end justifies the means. For example, his book The Prince explored the responsibilities of rulers, influencing rulers and statesmen for centuries. The Renaissance also gave rise to new concepts of freedom, human rights, and the right to self-governance, laying the groundwork for the Enlightenment, which inspired future revolutions and democratic movements, such as the American Revolution and French Revolution, which, in turn, inspired many modern rights and responsibilities. The study during this time had an emphasis on human anatomy, perspective, and naturalism, revolutionized and shaped modern ideas of freedom. Finally, the Renaissance fostered a renewed interest in science and exploration, later manifested in the Scientific Revolution, with figures like Galileo Galilei leading the way by challenging traditional beliefs through empirical analysis. The essential ideas of inquiry and innovation that characterized the Renaissance continue to drive human progress and shape our understanding of the universe at large. While the Renaissance is often viewed as an artistic rebirth, it was also, though less obviously, a rebirth in the political concepts of democracy and the rights of individuals to think for themselves. It laid the groundwork for scientific revolution, education rights, individual freedom, and so much more. The Renaissance has had a lasting and strong impact on society and laid the foundation for democracy, freedom, and ideals that we have today.